Hi, my name is Chris Medrano, and I'm the president of the National Multicultural Greek Council. I'm so happy to be here to have the opportunity to speak with you about the power of positive thinking for this AMPED Fall Greek Leadership Telesummit. This is the first time I've done something like this, so please forgive me if I'm a little nervous. But I was asked to speak with you guys a little bit about the power of positive thinking as you start the fall semester at your universities. Truth of the matter is that I believe a lot in the power of positive thinking. Not just like really positive thinking, but being optimistic of what is about to be encountered in the fall semester, actually encountered overall in life. I think having a positive attitude and thinking about the optimism within everything is a good thing. Now, I've been ridiculed a little bit about, wearing rose-colored glasses by some of my peers. But you know what? I don't let that get to me because overall, the power of positive thinking has helped me be where I am today. So, just a little bit of background on myself and why I am what I am and do what I do, or who I am and do what I do, is a little crazy, and I don't think that I would be where I am if it weren't because of my strong belief system and the outlook I really have on life. So, like I said, my name is Chris Medrano, and I am the president of the National Multicultural Greek Council. But it really didn't happen so quickly, like, oh, here I am, the president of the NMGC. It took a lot of work to get here. So, just a little bit of examples of why you have to stay your course. So, I'm a member of Gamma Eta sorority. And Gamma Eta sorority was actually founded in 1995 at the University of Florida. It was a local chapter, and it really didn't have the guidance that you would think a sorority or fraternity has, like when you start thinking about national fraternities and sororities. Back in 1995, when my founders decided to start a sorority, they really had no idea what it entailed to run an organization the way that a national organization should be run. So I came in actually in the fall of 1999 under the premise that I could be a agent of change in the organization, but not really change. It was more as a creator of the things that was going to be in part of the organization. So basically be part of history in the making, which is really exciting because you're like, wow, I can be a person that can, start something and create a legacy and do all these great things, and yes, that's true, but when you have no idea of the size, the massiveness of what it takes to create an organization and what the expectations are nationally, you kind of embark in this path with really no concept of what's going on. And so that was really how I came to be part of the Greek community and be part of my organization. So actually, I was in the very first pledge class of my sorority in the fall of 1999. It had only been around for 4 years. And in 2000, we celebrated our 5th year anniversary. And actually, I was in the pledge class of my organization that came in as the first pledge class of Gamma Eta Sorority Incorporated. So we had just been incorporated and been recognized by the state of Florida as an organization. So is very new, very raw, really. And, we faced a lot of adversity when it comes to the establishment of our organization because, as on a campus, you had to be recognized by a Greek council. The National Multicultural Greek Council was not part of the conversation for us at that time. And we just needed to have a national organization pretty much. And so we didn't have one. And so since we didn't have a national organization to be governing us from the macro level, the fraternities and sororities that were part of the Multicultural Greek Council on the local level at the University of Florida really had a hard time recognizing Gamma Eta. And so, so we didn't really have the support of the council. We didn't really have the support of our fraternity and sorority advisors from the Office of Greek Life, because many times fraternity and sorority advisors don't know how to advise local chapters that really have no accountability to a higher structure, and the only people that they're accountable is to their executive board. Not to mention being an organization that didn't have insurance and really no leadership development structure for us. And so a lot of the conversation that happened when Gamma Eta was being formed was, are we going to make it? Are we going to be able to succeed, and are we going to exist in 10 years? Lo and behold, here it is, 2013, and Gamma Eta is still around. But that didn't come easily. It came from the conversations that we had as sisters in a local chapter, really not knowing what was going on, and having conversations about how are we going to defeat the odds? What are we going to do? And a lot of the conversation was, we need to do good things on campus. We need to become recognized as one of the top organizations of campus and prove to campus officials that we're worthy of being here, and that our sisters are involved, and that they're leaders and women that can overcome adversity. And the next piece is going to be establishing a structure that can help us do that. And so having those conversations and having that plan, I think really was essential in setting the precedent of causing our organization to think critically and really consider what's the path that we're going to go forth in and what's going to guide us. At that moment, our organization really focused on doing the right thing, because we were an alpha chapter, right? The first and only of its kind. And so we were very, very cognizant and cognizant of the fact that if we did anything wrong on campus, that would be the end of our organization. That would be the end of Gamma Eta. And so we had to keep in mind that everything we did had to be based on the things that we believed in and keeping a positive attitude on how we were going to succeed. I think that's very critical, because I was very instrumental in that planning and development of the organization. Eventually, we established a beta chapter at the University of North Florida. Soon, we had a national board. In 2003, we had a national executive board. In 2004, we had our very first sisterhood conference. In 2005, we expanded to our Gamma chapter, and so on and so forth. In 2006, we had enough chapters, including undergraduate and alumni chapters, that we were able to apply for membership of the National Multicultural Greek Council. And all this to say that if it weren't because we refused to think of the negative things that people were saying and the challenges that we faced, and looked at them as learning opportunities, we wouldn't have had the opportunity to grow and be part of the interfraternal council that we were at in the University of Florida as a member of the NMGC, and then creating those relationships and having the opportunity to expand in our membership with the National Multicultural Greek Council. So as a result of this whole experience, really starting with my undergraduate experience, I kind of discovered where I needed to be and where my passion lays as a professional. So this day and age, I work at Indiana University, Purdue University, Indianapolis, but I've had the opportunity to go into student affairs and really find where my passion is. And I think that's also very key to determining where you're going to be and what your outlook is going to be on life. I think that if you're not passionate about what you do, you're definitely going to have a hard time finding that point in your life where you're going to have that motivation to keep going and keep making a difference in the lives of everybody. So as a result of my involvement of my organization, I became involved on campus. And not only that, but I decided to go into student affairs, which is what I'm really passionate about. So as a result of that, I started working at the University of Arkansas, doing student activities, student programming, continuing to work with fraternity and sorority life, in my spare time, and working with my organization and interfraternal partners, and learning more and more about fraternity and what it really means. And eventually I started my doctoral degree at Indiana University in Bloomington, where I served in a doctoral associate role in the Office of the Vice President for Diversity, Equity, and Multicultural Affairs, and then also worked as a doctoral associate in Multicultural Greek Council Advisor in the Office of Student Life and Learning. And I also had the opportunity to advise IFC and Pan-Hellenic chapter presidents, as well as coordinating the Interfraternity Institute at Indiana, in collaboration with the Fraternity Executives Association. So that's the Professional Development Institute for professional fraternity and sorority advisors. And I've also had the opportunity to work with amazing students at the Undergraduate Interfraternity Institute. I've done 3 national sessions of those, and I've done 2 campus-based sessions for Purdue University, and I've also had the opportunity to work with other NIC programs such as Impact, and I worked with students at the University of Michigan to do all that. So needless to say, I've done a little bit of work with fraternities and sororities, and I definitely have a little bit of knowledge when it comes to the power of positive thinking and improving your community. So why is it important though? Well, if you think about what the example that I just gave, you can basically do anything. I think it was Muhammad Ali that said that the word impossible is nothing. So really, it's just an opportunity for you to be better and think of innovative ways to be more creative. So it's really important to look at challenges and not get discouraged by them, but actually think about ways of, okay, how can I have a healthy disregard for the impossible? And that comes from leadership, actually. And disregarding what seems to be impossible, having a healthy disregard, is basically understanding that something may seem very difficult to achieve, or you may have obstacles that may be seeming like really high mountains to climb. But having a healthy disregard means that you can be realistic about what are the things that you can accomplish at this time, and how do I set goals, small goals that are attainable to achieve that overall goal. And it starts with the establishment of a vision. And what is your vision going to be? So you should have a vision for your life, but you should also have a vision for what your school year is going to be about. And so without really having a vision of where you want to go, especially if you're the leader of an organization, it's really going to be hard to guide your executive board and other members of your organization to follow through on what that is going to be. So having a clear understanding of what the mission of your organization is going to be, what are the goals that you want to establish, and basically how you're going to inspire others to act on those is going to be very important. And so if you don't have a positive outlook on the year, it's really going to make it difficult for you to achieve that vision and achieve those goals. So the power of positive thinking is always very important. And the important piece is remembering that you are a leader, and as a leader, you are not in this alone. There's always going to be people that are going to support your vision and believe in what you have to say, or or the things that you want to accomplish, but thinking beyond just the group of leaders that you're going to be, the group of members that you're going to be leading, but understanding that you have allies in your advisors, whether it's your chapter advisor, alumni advisor, or fraternity and sorority advisors. They can provide some guidance and some opportunities for reflection when you think that you're at a point where you don't know what to do or handle a situation. Advisors don't necessarily give you the answers. But a good advisor should provide you the questions needed for you to come to your own conclusions on what is the right thing to do. So having that in mind when going into the fall semester is knowing that you have the tools that you need in order to be successful. So basically, how is this applicable to you as a campus leader? Well, the truth of the matter is that you're going to be faced with difficult people. And I want you to keep in mind that sometimes, yes, you're going to work with difficult people, but sometimes you have to hold that mirror up and wonder if, are you the one that's being the difficult person? Yeah, I know. It's a hard question to ask, and sometimes, I've had the opportunity in my various leadership positions that I've also sat back and reflected, and I'm like, okay, why is this being so difficult? Am I being the one that is being the challenging person here? Is it really others or is it me? And so I've questioned those things, and I've come to the conclusion that oftentimes it could be me. So keeping in mind that you're going to be faced with difficult people, whether that's others or whether it's going to be yourself, and it's up to you to decide how you're going to work with those difficult people. And if it's yourself, wonder how you can think about the things that you're doing and then how you can change in order to make the situation better. So dealing with that, and also dealing with difficult situations. You're going to be faced with things that are going to be very challenging. Things that are going to challenge your thinking, the thinking of your organization, or the thinking of different policies and procedures that may be affecting you or your organization. And so understanding that you have to face those situations is going to be very important, and only you really can decide how you're going to approach the situations, and remembering that your attitude on facing a situation is going to be how well or not well that situation is going to end up. I know maybe you've heard of the fish philosophy, but I don't. Just a brief covering of what that entails is that basically it started in the fish market in Seattle, and basically it was a bunch of guys that worked in the fish market in a place that was stinky, smelly. You had to touch fish. Ugh. Who likes to do that? And you had to basically work with customers that aren't necessarily the nicest people, considering that that fish market, Pike's Place, is located in downtown Seattle. Maybe sometimes people were in a rush to get things, and so the attitude that they had was a positive one. They're like, if we're going to be stuck here at work, literally in a stinky place, might as well have fun in that regard, and they made their job fun. So if you're in a situation where you may be dealing with not such a pleasant situation or pleasant people, then always deciding what is the attitude that you're going to have and working with these people is very important. And so keeping that in check, I know that sometimes I've had to work with people that haven't been the kindest people, the fairest people, the happiest people, or the most positive people. But, I don't let their negativity influence me too much, because I know that there's somebody I'm going to have to work with. And so I may have to overcompensate in my optimism or, to be able to succeed and work with them. So always turning the situation from a negative into a positive. So when they start looking at that glass as half empty, we say that we look at the glass half full. But the truth of the matter is that the glass is totally full because it has water in half of it and the other half has air. So air may be something that we can't see, we can't touch, but it's definitely there. And so a glass is really always full because it always has a consistency of something, whether it's gas or liquid or solid. You know what I mean? So keeping that attitude in mind is always going to be very important. So this is very significant when you're starting to think about your fraternities and sororities in your chapters and your councils, because organizational cultures and personalities are also very unique. And so you may be part of a council that you're like, man, I hate working with X, Y, or Z organization, or, or X, Y, or Z person. The truth of the matter is that every school year, you start with a blank slate, and it's up to you to determine what's going to be written on that, and I'm the very first person to tell you that organizational culture is very difficult to change, and it takes time, but it's also very possible, and also dealing with personalities within those organizations, and that's also very, very difficult to confront. So where do you start? Where do you start? Let's think about that for a second. Where do you start to make change? So, when I think about how to work with these individuals and how to work with groups of these other organizations, I think that the very first place and most fundamental place where you need to start is with a discussion of what your personal values are. Think about what your values are. What did you grow up thinking and learning and growing? Whether it's something that you're learning from your parents, or something that you learned at school, or something that you learned from, a religious background, regardless of what that is. What are the values? What are your fundamental personal values that you have? Okay? And then start thinking about the values of your organization. So, for example, Gamma Eta. Our sisters base everything that we do on our 7 pillars: leadership, unity, sisterhood, service, scholarship, strength, and diversity. Those are our fundamental fraternal values. So everything that we do, all the actions that we take, are based on those values. So the programming that we do, the relationships that we have, and the way that we reach a decision-making process is based on those 7 values. So I think of my values personally, right? And then the values of my organization, and then I mesh those together. If my organizational values are congruent with my personal values, then that gives me a really solid place to start from when it comes to situations that are difficult to place. So I look at conversations and people and programming and stuff that I have to do, and I really look at how am I going to approach this using my values. And that's really the guide to basically how you're going to make decisions and how you are going to approach the world. If you have a positive understanding of what your values are and a strong sense of what those values are, then it really should be easy to have that conversation with yourself on how you're going to approach a situation. Maybe realize when you are in the wrong, or realize how my brothers and sisters perhaps could be in the wrong, and then using those values and using your mission and purpose of your organization, and even reflecting on the oath or your creed to determine, okay, where did we go wrong? How did we promise we were going to be brothers and sisters of XYZ, or alpha, beta, gamma, or whatever, and how are we executing that correctly? So using your personal values and your fraternal values is the most fundamental thing that you can use to create a positive outlook. And if you're keeping true to yourself with your personal values and your organizational values, really that should help you understand and know that you're acting accordingly and making the right decisions, which then leads to really this positive attitude of that, of that you're heading in the right direction overall. So easier said than done, right? Yeah, I know. Trust me, I know. But so how do we accomplish these? How can I do this? And so recently, I've been dealing with a lot of adversity, but in dealing with making myself a better person. And so in a conversation with one of my supervisors, he actually mentioned this philosophy that was that's called pretty much the 4 agreements. And so it's a indigenous philosophy, actually Toltec, I believe, and it was written in a book by this indigenous leader, and he believed that the 4 agreements were basically the 4 keys to make you change your perspective and your attitude with the power of positive thinking. And the 4 agreements consist of being impeccable with your word. Think about that. Not to take anything personally, not to make assumptions, and always to do your best. Let's think about that for a second. Being impeccable with your word. What does that mean? What does that mean to you? Basically, to me, it means that you're going to be a person that can, like in the old days, be trustworthy of their word. So what you say you're going to do, you're going to do. And you're going to have follow through. You know what I mean? And you're going to be held accountable, not only by others, but by yourself on the things that you say you're going to do. And that includes any verbal commitments that you make, any written commitments that you make, because what kind of value do you have as a human being if you're not worthy of your word? If people can't count on you? So there's a quote that says, within the book, that says, "Speak with integrity. Say only what you mean. Avoid using the word to speak against yourself or to gossip about others." So basically, use the power of your word in the direction of truth and love. That's deep. Because we get caught up so quickly in the he said, she said of the everyday, that those are the things that start ruining relationships. If you use the power of your word to speak love and speak truth, then really we're headed in the right direction if we do that. But if we start engaging in the he said, she said, this organization did this and that organization did that, or so-and-so did this and so-and-so did that. If you start thinking about the problem between organizations, within councils, locally, nationally, you really start thinking about the negative relationships that have evolved because of the he said, she said, and not minding your business and not minding the issues that are important to your organization. It's like we joined our own organization for the love of our org, not to be the ones criticizing other organizations, for one. And for two, if you set a reputation for yourself as a person who does not follow through on commitments, then you're not being an effective leader and you're not being an effective role model. So thinking about the power of words and how those can affect people in the end, and how credible are you going to be as a leader if you don't have that buy-in or that trust from others because you engage in negative behavior and say hurtful things. So be impeccable with your word and the things that you say. That's a very big lesson of life that I have learned, and continue learning every day. You know, it's something that as human beings, I think is something that we're always going to be working on. So we're never going to be perfect. You know, as human beings, we're never going to be perfect, but it's something that we can definitely strive for. So thinking about how you're going to be impeccable with your word is definitely one of those things that can help improve that positive outlook on life. Another thing is not to take anything personally. So the book has a quote that reads, "If someone is not treating you with love and respect, it is a gift if they walk away from you. If that person doesn't walk away, you will surely endure many years of suffering with him or her. Walking away may hurt for a while, but your heart will eventually heal. When you choose what you really want, you will find that you don't need to trust others as much as you need to trust in yourself to make the right choices." What does that mean? I guess that could be taken into a romantic context, of course. But let's think about the love that we have for our interfraternal brothers and sisters and the love that we have for our own organization brothers and sisters. Think about the issues that you've had with X, Y, or Z brother or X, Y, or Z sister. Especially if there's someone, that's part of your own pledge class or part of your own line. How does it feel when they do something that causes them to hurt your feelings? Or how does it feel when you've been inadvertently even, been the cause of hurt and pain to others? The truth of the matter is that sometimes when people hurt us, it's better to walk away from them, right? Or have them walk away from you. And it's also hard to think about when people are hurting our organizations. If we live a congruent life with our values, then sometimes we need to walk away from people that hurt us and are hurting our organization. It's very hard to say goodbye to people that you love, but you have to think about the opportunities that exist for you and your organization if you let go of the people that are bringing you down. So don't take anything personally. It's hard. It's hard to even talk about it because we tend to think that it's something that we did or others did. But the truth of the matter is that we can only be responsible for ourselves and really decide what are the things that we're going to do as a human being, as an individual, as a person, as a leader. If someone is talking bad about your org or talking bad about you, making false claims about something, just let them be. They're angry at something that probably you don't have any control over. And that's when people have to delve really deep within themselves to understand that they have an issue that they're facing and they just have to learn to deal with it. Sometimes the power of communication works wonders, and you can try to have those conversations with people, but people's attitudes and behaviors are really something that's beyond your control because you're only responsible for you, not really responsible for the actions of other people. Even though as a leader you should be accountable for the actions of your members and whatnot, a good leader takes accountability for their organization, and is the face of their organization. But in dealing with relationships with people, you have to know that everything is not personal. You can't take it on to yourself because if you do, you're going to overwhelm yourself. You're going to burn yourself out and understand that these are external situations that really you may or may not have any control over. And the only thing you have control over is how you are going to face a situation, how you're going to react, and how you're going to think and process through it. So remembering that everything is not reliant just on you will help you really achieve a positive outlook on how to handle the situation. Another thing that is very important is not to make assumptions. So, you know what happens when we assume, right? You make an ASS out of you and ME, me. So, that's basically what the word assume spells out, basically. The book has a really, really good quote that says, if others tell us something, we make assumptions. And if they don't tell us something, we make assumptions to fulfill that need to know and to replace that need to communicate. Even if we hear something and we don't understand, we make assumptions about what it means and then believe those assumptions. We all make all sorts of assumptions because we don't have the courage to ask questions. We don't have the courage to ask questions. Find the courage to ask questions and to express what you really want. Communicate with others as clearly as you can to avoid misunderstandings, sadness, and drama. If that's not powerful, I don't know what it is. We always make assumptions. We make assumptions when we hear something, when we have lack of information. So again, that feeds in to the living and having impeccable, being impeccable with your words. It really all ties in, because if you don't understand something, or feel that you don't have all the information that you need in order to make a decision, then you really should be asking more questions to be clear that you are communicating the right things and perhaps not speaking something out of turn or out of order. So asking questions takes courage. So as a leader, make sure to find the courage to ask those questions. I would especially ask those questions when the decisions that are being made are not congruent with your personal values or congruent with the fraternal values that of the organization that you're a part of. If you're dealing with issues within a local council, basically asking questions about how is this fulfilling the mission, purpose, or creed of that organization or that council. And really challenging people with that, because having values-based decisions and asking the right questions is going to help you in that process of positive thinking and engaging in positive relationships. So thinking about that is very, very important. Lastly, last of the 4 agreements is basically do your best. Always do your best. So we know that we can be very busy people and get caught up, in being the president of one organization, the secretary of the other one, being the treasurer of that third one, and then being a member of 3 or 4 other ones. Not to mention the fact that you have to go to school, engage in academic studies, and have responsibilities, maybe even with your family. So always doing your best is something that's very important, but it's definitely needed by achieving effective time management. So my thing, in order to be impeccable with your word, in order to not take anything personally, if perhaps you make a mistake or something, and not making assumptions, is basically not taking on more than you can chew. Because you can't do your very best in everything if you're divided up into 10 different ways. So choose what's important to you. What are your priorities? What did you make promises to? And then think about the things that are also going to help you to become a better person. Where are you going to be that offers you an opportunity for growth? That's very important. If there's no opportunity for growth for you as a leader or as a person, then maybe that's not the organization that you should be devoting your most time to. So think about those things as well. Always do your best. All those 4 agreements are connected one into the other. They kind of flow. So think about those things when you're engaging in these leadership opportunities and as you start to face the issues of the fall semester issues. We all know we're going to deal with some adversity and some challenges, but think about the things that we're going to do that are going to be amazing. So this includes a wonderful intake class, amazing semester to do really good programming, intentional programming, and how are you going to educate others on the things that you do as an organization? How are you going to positively influence others by modeling the way? And influencing others to have a shared vision, and how you're going to succeed. So, as I leave you on today, just wanted to leave you with a few tidbits of advice. Happiness really comes from within. I know. Amazing, right? Just discovered the cure. Happiness, but really it does. It happens from within, and it happens from the opportunities of you reflecting on your life, reflecting on the things that you love, reflecting on your values, and reflecting how you can be a better person. So it really does come from within. And things that contribute to your happiness is leading with integrity. We talk about integrity a lot, and that's another leadership concept is, leading with integrity. But really, I think that's something that's very important because who you are when nobody's watching is really a true determinant of who you are. So think about your decisions and think about the way that you think and think about the way that you act when nobody is watching. That's when you're being your authentic self. And when you think nobody is watching, how do you act? What are your thoughts? What's your thought process? What kind of person are you? So leading with integrity is very important, and understanding what your values are and the decisions that you make is very important. Also, stand up for your values. If you don't stand up for them, nobody else will. It's like you have to know what you believe in. You have to understand that, and you have to have a true understanding of what that is for you to be able to lead a life of integrity and being a credible leader. In the book, The Four Agreements, there's a quote that says, "Go inside and listen to your body, because your body will never lie to you. Your mind will play tricks, but the way that you feel in your heart, in your guts, that's the truth." So, in thinking about the issues and challenges that we have to face in life, your mind can play tricks on you all the time. I know mine does. Am I good enough? Is this okay? Am I smart enough? Am I going to have the strength to lead this organization? Yes, no, maybe, I don't know. I don't know what to do. Those are the issues and things that come into your mind when you have to make a decision or when you think that you might not be doing a good job. But in your gut and in your heart, if you know in your heart or in your gut that you're making the right decision, even if your mind is telling you this is not going to be a very popular decision, if your heart tells you this is the right thing to do, if your gut is supporting your heart, then you're making the right decision, even if that decision is difficult to make. And so just know that if it feels good in your heart, you're probably making the right choice. Also, be just to others. It's okay to make mistakes. In the book it says, true justice is paying only once for each mistake. True injustice is paying more than once for each mistake. So think about that. We're all human. We're all going to make mistakes. But there's a difference between making a mistake and making a misstep. And that's something that I learned through the Undergraduate Interfraternity Institute, is that there are missteps and that there are mistakes. So what's the difference between a misstep and a mistake? A misstep is a mistake that you make for the first time. So you're like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have done that. Oops, my bad. But there's a lesson learned from that misstep. If you make that same mistake, if you make that same misstep again, then it becomes a mistake. Why? Basically, because you engaged in making a decision that you knew was a bad decision, and you decided to do the same thing again. So there was no learning involved in that process. So that's a mistake and not a misstep. And so mistakes and missteps, similar but very different at the same time. It's okay to make missteps, but there might be a problem if you keep making mistakes over and over again. So that quote one more time is, true justice is paying only once for each mistake. True injustice is paying more than once for each mistake. So think about that. Let's stop making mistakes. It's okay to make missteps, but let's stop making mistakes. Finally, remember your agreements and commitments. Remember that whenever we hear an opinion and believe it, it makes it an agreement, and it becomes part of our belief system. So, listen carefully, and evaluate what people say. What are you going to believe, and what are you going to adopt as part of your belief system? That speaks volumes, because when someone says something and you believe in what they say, then you're adopting it to your own belief system. So take heed and think critically about the things that you hear and what you decide to take on as part of your own belief system. Follow through and be consistent with all of your things. This improves your overall state of optimism and positive thinking. Because if you're not consistent and you don't follow through, then you give people opportunity to question your word. So make sure that if you follow through, and even if you think you may be running late on something, or, always make sure to communicate. Always execute what you say you're going to execute, but always communicate in the process. Now, I'm not saying that you're not going to have times where, it's a time crunch or you may be too busy, but always fulfilling the things that you say you're going to do, you do them. If you need an extension, let people know, but always have that follow through and that communication. Lastly, turn challenges upside down. I know it's supposed to be frowns, but challenges bring frowns. And so take those challenges and turn them upside down and make them learning opportunities. We learn from our mistakes. So let's just learn from them and keep going. Let's not dwell in them too much. So when faced with an adversity, when faced with a challenge, think about it as not a roadblock, but what am I going to learn from this? What am I learning from this? What tools do I have in my toolbox that are going to help me overcome this? And take it on. Take it on full on, because the chances are that you're going to be able to succeed. It's all in your attitude. So I leave you with this as you start the semester. It's not just applicable to your fraternities and sororities, it's applicable to your personal life. Rose-colored glasses. People, like I said, tell me that I wear them all the time. And I guess it's not a good thing to wear them all the time because, sometimes you have to be realistic. But the truth of the matter is that I believe in the good of people innately. I do. I believe that people are good, basically fundamentally good. And if I believe that, then I know that if I have a good attitude and a positive attitude and I'm willing to work with others and check myself when I'm not being a good person, I know that it'll be good. I know that it'll be a good semester and I know that it'll be good to go. So I'm actually starting a new job here at Indiana University, Purdue University in Indianapolis. It's kind of like learning a whole new culture, learning all new people. But I know that I love what I do. And what I do with all my heart, and my passion is definitely there for the things that I do and helping my community. So, are there going to be roadblocks? Perhaps, maybe bumps in the road, but those are just opportunities for me to grow, to learn, and to become a better leader and a better professional. So, I leave you with these words, is that wear rose-colored glasses every now and then. Sometimes take them off just to get, a glimpse of what really is around you, but then put them back on. People are naturally good and really want the best for themselves and for others. So, if you have any questions or you want to just talk, feel free to reach out to me. My email is president@nationalmgc.org. I try to get back with people as soon as I can, but because of my job and everything that I do, sometimes it may take 24 to 48 hours. But feel free to reach out to me if you want to talk, or if you have any questions. So I leave you with this, and I hope that you have a wonderful semester. I hope that you have wonderful recruitment, and I hope that your chapter grows and that you grow as a leader and as a person. Thank you. Have a good day.